Arigatou gozaimasu. A very good day to all of you joining with us from all over the world. And thank you very much for joining with us today. Today I selected a Gokyoka, an instructive poem by HBS founder, Great Master Nissen Shonin. This instructive poem reads as, "If it wasn't glimpsed through the pines, it would be just a night with moonshine. If it wasn't glimpsed through the pines, it would be just a night with moonshine." It's a bit complex poem to explain. This speaks about a night with a bright moonshine above, and the observer is not granted an unobstructed clear view. He takes just a glimpse through pine leaves and branches that obstructs his view. But that obstacle makes him feel the moonlight more adorable. So he is glad for the obstacles. Otherwise, if not for the obstacles, it would have been just a bright moonlit night. But when it is observed through the obstacles, it is more fascinating. When something is achieved through difficulties, it becomes unique, fascinating, and magnificent. Even in our lives, we encounter good and bad experiences. We feel extremely lucky at some points, while we feel unlucky or ill-fated. It is our common human being nature to put our experiences into positive and negative categories. But again, we make many erroneous, wrongful judgments also due to this particular nature of our mind. Because our mind is filled with greedy, anger, and stupidity. That is the common human being nature. So reality is hidden for us. Therefore, sometimes what we recognize as a negativity might actually be something positive for us. So we should never be in a haste to judge whether something is bad, negative, or an obstacle or a difficulty. It might indeed be a positivity, luck, a good fortune in disguise. We as practitioners of Bodhisattva way can make such difficulties, obstacles, sufferings into benefits, inspirations, and joyous encounters. We should be smart to find the opportunity to improve and create positivity even through an obstacle, a negativity happen in our lives. That smartness is what we call being a real Bodhisattva. Let's look at a Chinese parable which comes in a collection of Chinese folklore. Long ago in China, an old man named Sao lived in a remote area located near a fort defending the border. One day, a horse which Sao kept at his stables ran away. Sao searched for his horse, found it and brought it back. And what's more, another horse followed Sao's horse. It was a beautiful, swift horse. Sao felt fortunate and he smiled at this. Sao's son was also very happy with this unexpected good fortune. Sao's son started riding this horse, but unfortunately he fell from the horse while riding it and broke his leg. At that time, the area of Sao and his son lived was invaded by another neighboring country's army. Almost all the young men in that area were mobilized into the army and had to go to the battlefield. However, Sao's son was able to evade being drafted, being mobilized because of his injury. Many young men lost their lives at the battlefield. However, the son had a narrow escape because he had fallen from the horse and injured his leg. The parable teaches us you can't tell what may bring you good luck in life, or fortune and misfortunes are entwined like the strands of a rope. These kind of things might happen to anyone, but in the case of devoted practitioners of the Lotus Sutra, it is not a mere incident or just a happening. When we engage in the Bodhisattva practices, bad things which fall on us can be changed to good things through receiving the sacred protection of the Buddha, the Bodhisattvas, and the guardian gods in the Gahanzon, our sacred object of worship. I would like to introduce you an experience of a HBS practitioner, and he is not a Sri Lankan, he is from Japan actually. He is a very devoted member in our Myoshinji temple in Yokohama, Japan. His name is Mr. Hiroshi Koizumi. Mr. Koizumi visited Sri Lanka several times, and in 2016 he visited Sri Lanka to celebrate the Vesak festival with us. And at that time he kindly shared his experiences as a HBS member with us. He was a very successful businessman in the multimedia field in Japan, even working with Hollywood and international ventures. That was prior to the Lehman shock. Lehman shock was a global economic crisis, happened more than a decade ago. His company collapsed with this crisis, the Lehman shock, as it affected most of his clients. He was already HBS member at that time when this unfortunate crisis happened. So he wondered why such an unfortunate thing happened. He said he never stopped his practices even though he faced that crisis. He increased the time of chanting Namo Myoho Renge Kyo after this, and also he visited the temple frequently, listened to the sermons. Also he chanted for the sake of the others, and he prayed that he received the benefits and recover his business soon. Yet it took several years full of struggles and lot of efforts for him to reinstate the company to its former state, to its former success. Then he realized he had already received the benefits. The benefit was indeed the crisis, not the reinstatement, not the recovery, but the crisis. If not for that decline of his company, he would have become a very successful businessman, of course, undoubtedly, but he would have never become a successful human being. He would have failed to become a successful bodhisattva in his life. But this crisis made him more closer to the temple, closer to the bodhisattva practices. Therefore, struggling through this crisis had made him not just a successful businessman, but a successful human being. Moreover, a successful bodhisattva practitioner. So ultimately, he was able to turn that crisis into a fortune. Nissen Shonin stated, the world we live in is not always a place where we can live in peace. It is a place full of sufferings, and there is no place to escape. However, even if we suffer in an unfortunate environment, we can overcome such difficulty by receiving the sacred power of the faith. So we can understand by this that faith is not just an emotion. Faith is a power that we should practice. How can we receive this power when we need? We can earn this in a fourfold method. Number one, we should chant the Odaimoku, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. We should recite Namo Myoho Renge Kyo faithfully and as many times as we can in order to eliminate the hindrances and eradicate our past bad or negative karma. Number 2, pray for good fortune, happiness, not only for yourself but also for other people. These virtuous thoughts and acts create a better destiny, a better fortunes for you. Number 3, listen to Gohomon sermons with a sense of gratitude as many times as you can. And the last one, number 4, think positively and discard the spirit of hatred and envious feelings from your mind. There's a Japanese proverb that says, sit on a rock for 3 years, which means you must keep on practicing for at least for a certain time period and endure the difficulties before you realize that your life is taking a better turn. So it takes time. It doesn't happen all of a sudden. You have to be patient and you have to tolerate. Nissen Shonin stated in another doctrine, we would like to enjoy the color and scent of beautiful lotus flowers in the Pure Land, the Jakko, even though we are still in this Saha world. That is why we always should try to introduce the way of overcoming the sufferings of the Saha world and reach the state of the pure Buddha land. And also, Nissen Shonin stated, when you open the eyes of pure faith in your mind, you will realize that this Saha world, Shaba world, where we live itself is indeed essence of the pure Buddha land. We always try to be at comfort. We seek for the easy ways. But in reality, it is the difficulties that brings us benefits and makes us our achievements great and magnificent. To get through these difficulties, we can be empowered with our pure faith. When we developed that faith and uphold it, we can experience the bliss of the tranquil Buddha land even in this Saha or Shaba world itself, in this particular moment. Let us overcome the hardships of COVID-19 through engaging in the practice of chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, reciting the Namu Myoho Renge Kyo or Daimoku, while we stay safe at home and encourage each other as HBS Bodhisattvas. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu. Buddha Saranai.